Hello. Um, so it is, I don't know. My watch is charging. It is Tuesday, October 27th. And here in beautiful Missouri, the weather is dreary. Um, Overcast. It's not raining. It's drizzling, sort of misty kind of. I mean, if it would just all out rain, that would be better. But it's just wet and gray, and that's how I feel as a reflection of my environment. I feel wet and gray. And it doesn't help that I'm wearing fleece like this. You should see my outfit. I look stupid. I went for comfort today. Converse sweatpants, long socks. It's cold. So I really wanted to make a video today, but it's not very conducive to coming up with ideas. Okay. Um, it felt a little too distracting back there. I'm going to see about getting something else for my window. Try to look a little more professional. Let's see. I mean, I have topics. I'm just having a hard time picking one. I just don't feel anyone in particular. But there has been one on my mind. It's always on my mind. Although I don't get these feelings much anymore, I could at any time. So, and I know other people do, so I think I'll go with one that's been nagging me for a while to do. And I'm pretty sure I've done this one a long time ago. I'm probably redoing ones I did 12 years ago. So anyway, I could have new insights, new people. Sometimes we need to freshen up our um, thought processes. Um, and this one is about self-harm, but I'm going in a direction that you don't know yet. Obviously, when we think of self-harm, people think cutting themselves, people cutting and other things, and is usually described as a release of tension and negative emotion, probably for more so for men, and some women maybe punching a wall to feel the pain and release. But I'm gonna go down a side road, because I think that there are other behaviors that people um, do as a form of self harm, but the emotions associated with it are completely different um, than that. And that would be um, more as a punishment than like a self punishment. Um, being coming from being angry with yourself, especially having to do with self control, um, or a. All right, I'm going to use some examples because I'm not the words. I can use examples better than specific words. For and I'll use my example that I experienced, and it's a very kind of bizarre conundrum, kind of trap uh, that a person can fall into. When I had lived all my life as a very people remarked on how tiny I was, how little I was, how petite I was, and that became a big part of my identity, unfortunately. And so when I was on like the biggest weight gaining medications, um, and a depression where I didn't have any um, motivation to do anything, I was, I felt I had lost part of myself, a big part of my identity, that I wasn't worthy anymore because I wasn't that petite person. I felt like I didn't have a person. I wasn't a person. I wasn't the person I was. I wasn't the same. I wasn't as, I was less. And it had to do with, I felt it had to do with me having no self control. Now, the medications are crazy. Some medications, I swear, it's like, it's not a craving. It's like they say, um, you must eat this bready sweet food now. I mean, it's, I guess it could be likened to maybe a drug urge need, but I would find myself eating and crying because my thought process going on was, I'm saying to myself while I'm eating, you know, you're already fat enough. Why can't you control yourself? You're disgusting. Um, Everything would be fixed if you could just get control of yourself and quit eating this food and be healthy, and then you would get everything back. Um, but you have no self control and you'll never get anything back. So, therefore, you deserve to be fat and unlikable. So, you are going to eat this food to get fat or stay fat as a punishment for not having any self control in my head. So that there was no enjoyment really from eating the food. Um, and I felt gross and disgusting and horrible. But I felt like that was something that needed to be punished, and a way to do that was to continue with that behavior. You know, and I can apply that also to, say, someone who has a drinking problem or drugs. I'm more familiar with drinking problems from family, so I'll go with that. Um, you have a drinking problem, but you can't stop drinking. And you start drinking one night, but you don't want to, but you do. You have to. And you get angry at yourself for having no control, no self control. So, therefore, this drink in front of you, you're gonna drink and get drunk to punish yourself for not being able to control it. You know, and like the drunker you get, um, the more self talk you have that you're worthless. And that worthlessness needs to be punished by the very behavior that makes you feel worthless. And I keep saying you, like, I never, I have had close family that have had alcohol problems, but I haven't myself. I'm just saying, I'm just using you as in a general term, and anybody that has um, it can also be applied to someone who is maybe, what word should I use? What polite, non-derogatory words should I use? Promiscuous, and in a situation where someone is hitting you up like, hey, let's go do it, and you don't want to. You don't want to be a slut or a whore. But you already have that impression of yourself. You've already identified with that yourself, or somebody has put that label on you enough that you're starting to believe it. And so it's like a self-fulfilling sort of prophecy type thing. Well, if everybody's gonna call me this, or I or if you're actually doing it, going ahead with situations where you're sleeping with people, but you're not doing it out of pleasure, doing it out of, well, I deserve this. The response you get from someone that has just used you as a one night stand, if you have enough of those and you still continue with the behavior, some might start to believe that they deserve the negative feelings they get after the encounters for having the encounters in the first place. Um, you know, I'm uh, I'm already a slut, so or I am a slut, so I should be treated poorly, kind of thing. I should be in relationships where I'm treated poorly. Um, that's an example. Um, those are, to me, those things that we do, those types of things. Sorry, my face is getting hot. Those things are all I consider also self harm, although it may not be, may not leave a physical scar, it leaves a mental scar, um, primarily from the self talk that we are sometimes so harsh with ourselves. And if we're told enough from the outside or given the impression enough from people from the outside that we're not worthy, um, or we just believe that people are seeing us in a certain way, um, it can affect the self-esteem, and we might as well live that part or punish ourselves for not being able to be the person that everyone else is being. Um, Especially when you're in the throes of those situations, it's like you're so far away from a normal um, way of life. Healthy is what I mean, not normal. Like, everybody's different, everybody's gonna have a different life, but healthy life. You're so far from it when this is happening that even if I did not eat that McDonald's that day, I'm still way too far away from a healthy mindset to, okay, I broke the cycle just by not eating this one time. It takes a lot of not talking negative to get rid of the negative self-talk, the negative, the the self-punishing talk, which results in self-punishing behaviors, is very uh, very strong. And when you're in the midst of it, you're far from a healthy place, and it takes work. It takes a lot of work. Um, because at those times it's so hard to believe, even when someone tells you that you deserve to be happy, um, and be proud of yourself and all that positive mushy stuff therapists tell you, and you're still super negative, and you don't believe a word of it, and you don't want to go back because you think they're lying just to make you feel better. Um, I imagine that some of it is can be depression that needs to be treated before you can go on that journey to healthy thought processes and beliefs about yourself. Um, I believe that there could be people in your life that you need to get rid of um, to avoid because they reinforce that. Um, and I'll give you an example. My father, the one that raised me, um, first off, I do love him very much, and he's my dad. Um, but he said something that hurt me so bad that I cut ties off with him for a while. And I hadn't been to see him in a long time because I had gained a lot of weight, and appearance was super important to him. Um, how we looked, how the house looked, the cars, it was just his deal. And I didn't want to go and visit him. I lived across the state, and I avoided it because I didn't want to see his look of disappointment when he saw me. But I was out that way for something, and I felt, well, it would be really rude of me to not stop by because he had been saying stop by. So I stopped by, and I'm sitting in the front porch talking to my stepmom, and my dad comes home, and he is walking towards me, and the first thing he says to me is, "You put on quite a few pounds." I'm like, "Oh, hi." He didn't say, "Hi, glad to see ya. Oh, you stopped by. Haven't seen you in so long." No, it was how I appeared. And I was so hurt that I couldn't I just was holding back the tears so hard that I just was like, I have a really bad headache. I have to go. And I left. And I didn't talk to him for a long time. And things are different now. But the reason I cut off ties from him was for my own health, my own mental health, because I didn't want to be thinking every day when I saw myself in the mirror, the look on his face. Because it wasn't, the words were bad, but it's always the look on their face. The words are bad, but the looks that people give you when they say things are what really hurts. And so, if if that was the basis of our relationship, that I had been this cute tiny person, and was a nurse, and then became ill and was unable to. If I had cancer or or a one of the, like the autoimmune disorders or something, and I had to take prednisone and I gained weight, would he have had that attitude? I don't think so. So people need to figure their shit out. That's part of why I'm very, very insistent on. I'm sick and tired of mental illness being separate from medical illness. We are sick because our brain does not function properly. We have a brain disease. It's it's physical, it's biological, it's chemical. Neurotransmitters are not doing the job, and or our brain is not doing what it should with the neurotransmitters. So I don't know why on earth depression and anxiety disorders and bipolar disorder are separate, are treated separately. It's silly. It's ridiculous. Um, but I had to be as positive as I possibly could about myself because I didn't want to go back into that mode of eating McDonald's in my car and crying because I was eating McDonald's in my car. Um, you know, I'm pretty sure I was addicted to it. I'm pretty sure you can be addicted to food. But I was also taking Remeron and Zyprexa. Never again. I just got water all over me. Okay, so I had climbed my way out of self-harm, eating to punish myself, basically. So I did not want to go back there, so I chose to stay away from something that would trigger that. My brother, excuse me, passed away a couple years ago from, well, if you get down to the nitty gritty, he died from social anxiety because he started drinking to ease the anxiety of being social in social situations when he was in high school, and it just carried on through adulthood until it became something he had to do every day, and then it became something he had to do to function. But he found himself in the same place as I was with food. He didn't want to be an alcoholic. He wanted to have what all his friends had in his brother. He wanted to have the wife and kids and house and car and job. And I'm just laughing at my circle light keeps going in my eyes. I have to figure out what to do with that. I'm sorry if it's distracting. He wanted that so badly. But especially because he was a guy, he didn't seek help for his anxiety. Because, and and especially with our dad, who was at the time, you toughen things out. You don't, you be a man. And so he would create situations uh, that involved drinking. He would, like if people stopped by, he would offer them drinks so it was okay for him to be drinking. Um, Everything was always, let's go, the barbecues, because that was a drinking activity. Going to the football games, that was a drinking activity. Those were what he pushed for and created, and then it got to where he lost his family, his job, and was getting DUIs, and he didn't want to be a jobless, homeless alcoholic. But he was so down on himself about being that he would just go ahead and drink because to like continue to fulfill that and to punish himself for being that. I've already fucked it up enough. And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that. I'm just saying um, self talk. Um, I might as well drink tonight alone, and then tomorrow, and then the next day. And well, I'm an alcoholic. And in the end, it was, well, I'm already dying. I know that. So I might as well drink. But by that time, also, he had to drink. Um, or the withdrawal, and he'd end up in the hospital. I mean, you can die from withdrawal from alcohol. But there was that point where he was punishing himself out of, by, I've lost everything. I might as well just go the whole mile, finish the trip. And then hate yourself the next day, which only causes you to fall, to repeat the behavior. The self-hatred perpetuates the behavior, only to make you hate yourself more. And that's a really difficult pattern. It's more than a pattern because it's kind of like a little bit of a journey. I think that every time you do something like that, you have that experience, that thought, well, I might as well get wasted. I might as well sleep with this guy. I'm already a slut, or I deserve to be treated like one. Every time you do one of those things, eat a bag of donuts, or you're on a journey towards somewhere not so fun, not to a place of pure self-hatred and self-disgust, and and perhaps that is a place where you hear about the folks that are self-harm. In the what you usually hear, maybe that is part a stop at the journey, and it is really difficult to halt that journey, um, stop that ride you're on, going the wrong way, or going to the wrong place, and I think it's harder for men because they're less likely to seek professional help. I think it's difficult because a lot of people don't have the money, um, or know how or where to get help. Um, it is very difficult to get out of by yourself, um, because you the, basically, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase about just smile whether you're happy or not, and you'll find out that you'll feel better. I know that I have been in therapy and I have um, said positive things about myself that I didn't believe because I was still in such a negative place. Um, but I think that is really where it starts. It's like you're practicing. You may not believe it, but you shouldn't give up. Um, and it needs to be specific, like um, I I deserve better. It's a little vague. You need to like for me, it I'm like what I would say to myself is I'm worthy enough to learn about food and eat healthy to make my body healthy and my brain healthy. I am worth that. I am worth doing that. I had to get off the medication though first. And I tell you, I have in my purse is a list of medications, and my mom has it too. That I absolutely will not take anything that has like, if weight gain is a big side effect, chuck it out the window. No way. Forget it. Um, but I think it has to be very specific, and probably how the longer you've been saying the negative to yourself, the harder it would be to to move on from that self-talk. Um, I it's difficult because people um, tend to think too far ahead to goals. are too far ahead. Like, um, I deserve to be married, have kids, and live in a nice house. That's too much. I deserve to love myself, and if I meet someone that treats me with respect, I deserve respect in a relationship. But I'm okay if I don't find that. I'm okay. I think is more like easier to obtain than going too far forward or going too big. Um, also, um, trying to get away from self harm and negative self talk. Um, if you make a mistake, it's easy to give up, but you have to remind yourself that you're a human and you've been through a lot, and it's going to take some trial and error to in mistakes. Um, for example, I didn't just like have an epiphany and stop eating junk food. I um, I had good days and I had bad days, and that's what I have now. In fact, I need to myself. I'm starting to get that negative self talk again, and like, well, you're already fat enough. You might as well eat it. That's not a healthy. I mean, people can enjoy um, food like fast food, or I mean, you can enjoy that. People can enjoy that and not not become a thing, an issue, a problem. In fact, I think but I just have to be honest that um, I may not always make the healthy choice, but don't use that as an excuse to continue behavior. Um, the primary thing is I want to be around for as long as possible in the best condition as possible. So if I want to do that, I'm going to have to look at what I'm eating and make make adjustments and make choices in the minute. Um, so, like today, I did have for a snack, I had an apple instead of potato chips. And this may not be every day, but it's easy to go from hating yourself because of something you're doing, and then when you try to not do that, hate yourself for making a mistake and slipping up and giving up too quickly. You know, that's something that I think is pretty prominent prominent is giving up too quickly. I have tried things and they didn't work, and I was disappointed, but I only saw them as that didn't work, and I moved on to the next thing. But when I am in a, excuse me, half yawn, during a depressive mood, I generally dismiss everything that comes into my head because it's the depression talking. It is not me. It is nobody but the depression, and I dismiss it. I just let it flow in and flow out. I might cry and have no energy and all that depression stuff, but I'm usually able to understand its depression and let it float in and out of my head. If you can't, I don't know. I mean, I've been there where I couldn't do that. That's stuff I learned in with a really good therapist. Cognitive behavioral therapy is where I learned how to counteract self-talk. And, you know, telling the future, you've heard me say it, I can't tell the future, I can't read minds. Is it just negative self-talk? And I practiced it a lot. It wasn't like somebody just told me about it and I was able to do it. I had to practice it. You have to practice it every day. Anyway, so I wanted to do this video specifically because I wanted to address behaviors that I consider self-harm as a result of our negative, the tapes that we run through our heads, and that most people don't think of as self-harm. Usually it's just the cutters, and which, I mean, I'm sure they can both coexist, but some people don't see that as self-harm, and I do, as self-abuse, self-hatred, self-punishment. We must be, even if we're the only ones, we must be kind to ourselves, kind and gentle and understanding, because all the people out in the world can't be that all the time for us. So I guess that's about all I have to say on that topic. And if you like my video, please give me a like and comment. If you did not, please let me know what you would like to see or what could be done better. Also, any topics you would like me to address or have any questions, let me know. Thank you.